who is Rob Holmes? Well, I founded my company in 2001. My company's called IP Cybercrime. It's a family business, and there are a lot of different concepts that you see online, like maybe some of you have heard of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, or you've heard of DMCA takedowns, things like that. Also, there's a program on eBay called VERA, Verified Rights Owner Program. And I was one of the investigators in the 90s that helped Microsoft develop that program with eBay. And I've worked on a whole bunch of other different interesting cases, but my most recent one is Chloe versus Trade Key, which is a luxury brand that's going after a Saudi company, basically the Saudi version of eBay. And it's a pretty exciting case. But I've been doing this since '95, so I sometimes call myself the Forrest Gump of investigators, mainly because I seem to be in the right place at the right time. I said yes, and I rose to the occasion. My father actually did this before me. He started his company. He's an ex-trooper from New Jersey. He founded his company in 1980. It's also a family business. He was around during the time when the Trademark Act of 1984 was incepted, and back in the 50s they created what they call the Trademark Act, or the Lanham Act. In 1984 they actually had penalties for criminal infringement. They didn't have that before, or had civil infringement. But he was also the guy on Canal Street in New York City that was busting people for selling fakes. You know, you hear about the guys on the streets with the fake watches and all that stuff. Well, he was the guy doing that back in the 80s and 90s. And when I was 12, that was when he kind of started his business and was doing a lot of this stuff. So I would do undercover buys on the boardwalk in New Jersey and the swap meets and stuff like that. I always tell people I conducted my first infringement case when I was 12 and I was paid in ice cream. I get paid a little bit more than that now, but you know, still I do prefer the ice cream sometimes. This right here is kind of neat. This is actually a headline from the Philadelphia Inquirer with a seizure that we did when I was 12, and I still work for this company right now, so it's just kind of neat to kind of see the whole family circle go around. Now, what I want to talk about is personal branding, and this is how I always like to start this talk, because even though I'm an investigator and I help brands secure their intellectual property online, I also have a company, and as a businessman, I market myself as well, and that's why I find, you know, myself to be someone who's uniquely qualified to discuss this with you guys, because I've had to do this myself from the ground up, just like you. And I'm not a big corporation or anything, even though I work for them, I can kind of, as I'm helping them, I can develop some of those same tactics for myself. Now, what to consider now with your personal brand. And again, you know, everybody here, you pretty much have like a handle that you use online, whether it's your AOL name, you know, from back in the old days, or it's, you know, it's your Twitter handle or whatever. One thing you want to consider is it unique? Because, you know, it may be taken if you have a handle that you use on Twitter, or say for Gtalk or Gmail or whatever, it may not be available on the new, the new latest social network. So you want to find something that's somewhat unique, so that it really hasn't been taken everywhere. You know, is someone else using it? Does it transcend your job or location? Actually, I was just talking to Leah Schofield, just in the other room, about a situation where someone had, and I've seen this too, where people will have a Twitter handle that relates to their job. Like if you work at Microsoft, it'll say Microsoft Bob. Well, what if you switch jobs? Your entire personal brand ends up having to be reinvented. You know, so does it transcend your job or your location? What if you switch careers? You know, things like that. And is the .com taken? One of the things I do too, the first thing I do if I like a handle, I'll check and see if it's actually taken. Because if the .com is not taken, yeah, there's a decent chance that it's unique enough that it's probably not taken on Twitter, Facebook, and all those other places. And I'll show you guys how to find out on kind of a mass level the availability of some of this stuff. And for a person, oh yeah.
I don't know my question.
Yeah, no.
What about just using your name? If your name's not taken and using a name, pros and cons of that?
I'll get into that actually. Yep. And what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to go through my thought process of creating my personal brand and stuff like that. If I don't answer that question fully, let me know. But yeah, this section will be about some of that. And with your personal brand too, you may not be filing a trademark. It may just be for your own personal identity. Okay? So for example, my personal brand, my handle that I use on everything is Holmes PI. I'm a private investigator, have been since I was 12, probably until I'm 90. And of course, you know, first thing I thought of was my hero here. Drives a Ferrari. I drive a Prius, so I'm not exactly the same, but I do wear shorts probably as often as he did. But I chose Holmes PI. I found that to be unique enough. I picked it probably in the mid-2000s, and it wasn't taken, the .com wasn't taken and all those things. So that's my identity. My online identity is Holmes PI. So then what I did was, you know, I went to my Facebook page. It's my personal Facebook profile. It's not a business page, but my personal profile. I customized the URL, so it's facebook.com/HolmesPI. Here, same thing. My Twitter handle is HolmesPI. So if someone wants to find me, again, they already know my handle on Facebook. If they want to find me quick enough, they can go on Twitter and just /HolmesPI, and there I am. My LinkedIn, same thing, and many of you may already know this, but you can customize your LinkedIn handle as well. And it's always linkedin.com/IN, and for some reason IN, that's the English, you know, I don't think IN actually means anything but /HolmesPI. So that would be my handle. So again, people can find me, they can see the logic in your naming process if they want to find you on a different social network. And as a businessman, I think that's important. I want to be found as often as I can. Except when I don't want to be found. And then they won't find me. And my personal blog too. My personal blog, I use the domain holmespi.com, but I also use, this is a WordPress.com site. So this is the free WordPress with the upgrade for the individual domain. But my handle on here is holmespi.wordpress.com as well. And this is just where I put specific stuff just about private investigations, business, personal things, whatever I want to put on here. But it's not my business blog. This is all something personal where, say, if I were to sell my business or get another job or something like that, this brand will go along, will go with me to wherever I go. Now, company branding. And again, in my situation, it's my own company. Okay? It's just we have less than 10 employees. So this is my company. The company represents me. But again, I decided to have a kind of a separate brand from my company. So I'm managing my personal brand and my company brand. Okay? Again, you want to consider, is it unique? That's something, and is the word mark descriptive? And this is something, it's part of your strategy, it could be part of your strategy, because my company name is too descriptive to trademark. But I wanted it to be descriptive, and there's a reason for that. If you had a detective agency called Zazzy, it'd be a lot easier to trademark because there aren't that many out there. It doesn't describe what you're doing. But again, in this situation, you probably will want to file a trademark if you're choosing the unique name. Okay, an example, my company name is IP Cybercrime. And the reason I did this, and again, I opted with a descriptive name, this describes what I do. I investigate intellectual property, cybercrime. And again, this is something that I can't trademark, but the reason I did this was because in 2003, I decided to invent a word. I wanted to invent a word that is now actually used by the FBI, Customs, and they call my industry IP Cybercrime. So it's one of those things where I chose kind of a different strategy there, so I could own a generic name that I could make generic one day. You know, it's one of those kind of deals. Now other people use that term, but the definition for what I do, and back in 03, people were like, okay, what does he do? I mean, I know there are people out in the streets busting the people with the handbags and the swap meets and all that stuff. Rob's kind of like that, but he's online. You know, and I said, okay, well, I have to create a word that describes my business. Even people in my industry didn't quite get exactly what I did. So I basically created this word. And basically the definition is the violation of trademark, patent, or copyright law, utilizing internet technology in part or in whole. That could be anything from counterfeiting handbags to peer-to-peer file sharing to cyber squatting. Anybody here know what cyber squatting is? Yeah?
Yeah.
Cyber squatting?
Yeah, somebody basically mimics or messes with a DNS server and sits on somebody else's site, if I remember right.
Yeah, it's basically taking someone's trademark and using it in a URL. So if you have, say, like NeimanMarcusBags.com or NeimanMarcusLuxury.com, Neiman Marcus owns the trademark, they can fight you on that. So those are some cases I work. And theft of trade secrets, believe it or not, that is also considered intellectual property. The recipe for Coke, which it's never been a case I worked on, but you know, there are a lot of trade secrets that we also protect as well, and rights of publicity violations. Believe it or not, if the next Vanity Fair shoot costs $1 million to shoot, well, catering was probably half that, but they would, you know, and the photos get leaked online. Like I'm working, there's a movie right now, some of the photos got leaked online, behind the scenes photos from someone in the crew. And those are also some cases that we take as well. So it kind of encompasses a lot of things. If it's an image or a name that someone else owns and it has to do with the internet, that's my space. And that's why we chose this title, this company name. And a lot of thought went into this. Oh, originally we were called the Holmes Detective Agency. And because my name's Holmes, and Holmes is kind of a normal name for you know, Sherlock Holmes in the detective world, I thought it was really cool. But the problem was, I got calls for so many cases that had nothing to do with what I did. And since I have such a laser-pointed focus for what I do, my phone rang all day, and it was just, can you hunt down my wife? Can you do a paternity test? You know, I mean, everything you can think of. So that was why we changed to this, and that's why we put so much thought into this. Now my phone never rings, you know, because I get, you know, a call, you know, I mean, I get new clients maybe once every couple of weeks, you know, maybe less, you know, because it's all repeat business for what I do. But, you know, and then also with the business, I wanted something a little bit more robust for a website. So I decided to go with, and I'm already a big fan of WordPress, so I decided to go with WordPress, the self-install version. You know, it's a very powerful website software. And you can see here, this is my company website. And just to kind of give you guys a background of the software I use the Genesis framework that Copyblogger puts out. I very much prefer it over all the others, and this is actually the corporate theme. I like it a lot. I've been using this for years. I also use their web hosting. They have a Synthesis web hosting. It's about 20 bucks a month, 26 bucks a month, something like that. I use their web hosting. I'm really happy with it. But anyway, this is what my website looks like. And again, the domain is ipcybercrime.com. So now this is where we have a business page. So I have my personal profile, which is facebook.com/HolmesPI. Then we have my Facebook company page, which is facebook.com/IP Cybercrime. So again, if someone wants to find me, it wouldn't be too hard to find my company on Facebook. On Twitter, same thing. I'm at IP Cybercrime. My company on Twitter, same thing. We're branded on there. I mean LinkedIn. I don't think, I could be incorrect, but I don't think they have personalized URLs for businesses yet on LinkedIn. I may be wrong, but that's something that I'm assuming is going to roll out soon because they're making a lot of changes.
Well, you have one, but it's like linkedin.com/company
Right.
/reviewing page.
Right. Can you customize them yet? Or?
You can't select
Not
it.
yet. Okay.
It's based on your page name.
Got it. Okay.
It's custom as it is, I guess.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, see, so that's kind of how we do it. We kind of brand it. Now, from a publication standpoint, and again, I have my personal brand, I have my company brand, but I also wanted something where people could find me off-site. They could find me or find my company. It didn't necessarily look like an advertisement, like a public service, you know, for my industry. I wanted to create a blog that people could, you know, benefit from, and they could still end up finding me without being out and out, just cheesy, you know, ad, things like that. And again, what to consider. Is it unique? Is it descriptive? Is someone else using it? And for this, again, you probably will want to file a trademark, especially if it's a blog that you end up selling in the future or associating it with another business or a brand that you take forward or split it off. Some of these blogs end up becoming businesses in themselves. With this, again, this is just part of my company. It's part of my company website, but I want it to be named differently. Again, I chose knockoff report, basically because, well, I'm in the knockoff business or anti-knockoff business, but I also wanted to make it a knockoff of the Drudge Report. So it's basically like links to all the latest knockoff news about twice a week. there's a raid in Ghana, or there's some lawsuit in Michigan. I wanted all those things to be up there, almost like the Drudge Report for knockoff. So anyway, it's kind of like a knockoff of the Drudge Report. But that's where you get my blog. And again, this isn't a separate website. This is the blog page of my company site. So if you notice, the header's different. I have a plugin that makes the header different for this page, so that all the other pages you go to, it'll say IP Cybercrime on top. But from a branding perspective, I want my posts and I want my blog page to have knockoff report as a title. So when people stumble upon this or these pages, it looks like a news post. And again, it's nice because in a very non-devious way, because I'm authentically giving people information. All the rest of this stuff brings them to my company site or my company pages here. So again, it's one of those this is a content marketing conference. This is just a way for me to bring people in using content to bring people into my company site. And again, we have a Facebook page, and there aren't a lot of followers on this because we mostly, just from a broadcasting perspective, we have more followers on our company Facebook page. So we actually post on there instead of here. But you can see we still wanted to reserve the name. So you have facebook.com/knockoff report. Same as this. I actually tweet my headlines on my personal blog, on my personal Twitter account, because that's just where my following is. But again, we want this to be reserved. So @knockoff report is reserved. But you can see also here, news and views for war paying counterfeiting for our tweets. Please follow our editor-in-chief, Rob Holmes, at Holmes PI. That way, at least people know where to go. Yes, sir.
I notice you're using TM.
Yes.
Rather than the R. Are you applying for the R, or are you just going to use TM forever?
You know what? That's a very good question, and I have a section a little bit later. I feel like you guys are plants in the audience because you're going to get into the next section. Yes, and I'm gonna get into depth into that in actually the next section. So I'll discuss that in the next section. Very
you're
good
doing a
question.
good job. You're motivating us.
Good. No, you guys are asking the exact right questions. All right. Here's another thing very important for a dog lover is, all right, my dog has personality. His name's Chauncey Holmes, okay? And believe it or not, Chauncey Holmes was taken. So I had to choose Holmes and Chauncey. It wasn't taken anywhere, so I figured Holmes and Chauncey. There's actually a real man in England named Chauncey Holmes. Yeah, so anyway, but my dog, he's got a Facebook page, a Twitter account, and this is him. He's the one on the right, the good-looking one. Here's him shaving. But, so he's got his own Facebook account. See, every dog has his day. This one has a Facebook page. But he's got one. Again, this is personal stuff, but it's just a way, again, branding's important. Even if it's just messing around with your friends, your own high school friends, you want people to find you. And this is just a way, from just a fun social side of things, branding is even something that takes very little effort. So you can see here, Chauncey's got a Facebook page, and he also has a Twitter account. Again, every dog has his day. This one has a Twitter account. Yeah, I like this. So this is the last post. It's been a few months, but so what do y'all have planned for the weekend? I'm planning on conning Rob and defeating me a cheeseburger when Mommy isn't looking. Because I do. My wife gets mad, but I share cheeseburgers with Chauncey all the time. When the other two are upstairs with the wife, yeah, spoil him. But anyway, so you kind of get an idea of, what I think of personal branding and the concept of branding yourself online. You're on something called social because you want to be social, you want to be found. So those are ways to be found and be identified on multiple platforms. Now we're going to get into trademarks. And this is where my professional specialty kind of meshes with some of the things that I've done in my personal life and my personal business life. Now, just to get some definitions out of the way, trademarks are unique because it's not like, when you hear of intellectual property, you think of patents, copyright, other things like that. But, trademarks are unique because a trademark is the only piece of intellectual property that is intended, its intended use is to protect the consumer. A trademark is created so that you can identify the source of a product or good or service. So for example, if you buy something with a certain trademark on it, and you didn't die when you consumed it, when you find that trademark on a product again, you'll say, you know what, it's probably safe to try again. And that really is the purpose of trademark. And a brand is basically a term, a design, a symbol, but it's something that's built around a trademark or around a mark. And brand protection is just the act of preventing someone from illegally using your intellectual property. And again, this is where, and it was a great question you asked about this. Now, the R. Now, many of you guys see the TM, the R, different places. Well, here's the interesting thing about the R, is that the R means that you have it registered with the federal government, uspto.gov. And I'll show you how to search that site in a little while. That means you've had it registered and you have a registration number. Not that you just filed it, you have basically like a file number. But once the federal government has examined it and said, okay, it's unique enough, and it's, you have the right to use this name in this particular class, they call it, which is a particular industry. You can use it just for entertainment. Someone could use the same mark just for soda, things like that. You have to apply for each different class. Now, and what the gentleman had asked me about was the TM, and SM is something you see now and then. Now, these are unregistered with the federal government, and they don't have to be registered with the state. They don't have to be registered anywhere for you to claim rights to something. And, oh yes?
You to claim what?
To claim the right to a name. And this is where it gets interesting, because just say, for example, I have knockoff report on my website and someone else decided to use it and I didn't put that TM next to it. And it takes very little effort for you to put the TM next to something. If I didn't, I'm not claiming the rights to it. And it's very important that it's like with copyright too. And again, I don't do copyright, but it's the same principle in copyright. If you have that little C at the bottom, you're claiming the rights to it. And I kind of consider it like physical property. If you leave something at the curb and someone takes it, it's not considered theft because you left it out there for the public to take. But if you left it inside your yard, locked behind a fence, you're claiming that it's yours. It's the same with intellectual property, same with the name, same with the trademark. You put TM next to it, you're basically saying you don't necessarily have the rights because no federal body or state body has said that you have the rights, but you're claiming the rights to it. So 5 years down the road, if I'm investigating you and you're suing one of my clients because you have the first use, I'm going to look for the first time that you use that TM, because that's the first time you claim the rights to it. Even though it may not be a strong argument on my part, it's going to be my argument, is that this is the day that you decided to claim the rights to it. If you don't have a TM or you're not claiming rights, you're basically just leaving it out there for people to take. Yeah.
So say that you're using, I'll just use me as an example, online social coach, okay? I haven't stuck my little TM on it.
Yeah.
Somebody else started using that online social coach. They didn't stick the TM either. If I decide to stick the TM on it at that point,
well, see, this is where, and again, this is all about prevention, not necessarily about the dispute itself. Because as far as the dispute, you want to consult an attorney.
Right.
But laying the foundation, yes, if you want to claim rights, because if you put it on there and you're shooting blanks, you don't have the rights, at least you claim the rights to it.
Right.
If you ended up getting into battle with someone and two lawyers duke it out, you could be wrong. But it doesn't hurt you to put the TM. That's the most important part. It doesn't hurt you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is important.
Yeah.
I'm also trying to, I've got 2 R's.
Yep.
But I'm thinking about using others, and I'm trying to beat the $900 for each one.
Right.
Okay? So, if I use a TM, what documentation do I have to have? Where do I have to have the documentation? Is there some time period that if they don't contest you, that it adds to your credibility?
It's, what I would say, and since you already have the experience of registering federal trademarks, what I would say is go through the same steps. Again, it's not as strong as having the federal trademark, but go through the same steps. With the federal trademark, you have to have a specimen that's been used in commerce, right? Well, what you would want to do, and this is what I would recommend, is to take that specimen that you've used in commerce And as if you were putting together the file jacket for the federal trademark. And since you have the experience, I would go through the same motions you did for the attorney and just have that stuff ready. You know? Oh, have that stuff ready. You know, like the specimen. Like even if it was a service, you could print the invoice with the trademark on top, or your report that you send the client with the trademark on top, and that's your earliest date of use, and save that as your specimen. But again, what I would do, because I'm not an attorney, what I would do is, if you want to save money, is mimic what you've already done with your attorney, and save that file for when you want to do it. That's what I would do.
And when somebody contests me, then what do I do?
Get an attorney.
Pardon?
Get an attorney.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't, and I do this, you know, for business. I take instructions from attorneys. They're the ones that know how much, you know, really, how valuable your rights actually are and stuff like that. I help clients develop the dates of first use and things like that, even with their big product names and things like that. But they're the ones that have the decision-making ability, the strategy to be able to say that. I always say, when it comes down to it.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Questions, but there's one more I think is very important.
Sure.
Is there any sort of a time period, like with an R, it's 10 years?
No, and that's the thing, is that if you really want to secure something, don't go with the unregistered trademark. You know, it's kind of like a just in case. That's really what it is, more than anything. There are some things, like you notice Crocs, the brand of shoe, they have a TM on most of their products because they couldn't get it registered in time. So you'll see a TM on things because it's one of those things where you put the TM on, but you really want that R. You know, you really want the R. But you can put a TM on just in case.
You mentioned the tenure thing for the R. What is the tenure?
That's going into something, I'm not going to cover that. That's something you want to ask an attorney.
Okay, just at a high level, does it mean you have to use it for 10 years before to qualify?
Well, you do have to consistently be using it. Like your date of first use has to be really your date of first use in commerce. Someone has to give you money for the use. And yes, you have to, if you stop using mark, another company can come in and prove that you've abandoned that mark.
Okay.
Yeah, so there is a continued use, no matter if it's 10 years or 30 years. You do have to continuously use a mark. So, okay, and types of trademarks. Now I'm going to kind of go through some of these things because, again, in online branding, you're discussing mostly words because we're talking about social media and things like that. But I kind of want to go through some of the other ways that people can recognize the source of the product. We recognize this word here? This is a trademark. Okay, Apple owns this word for just about everything except music, because Paul McCartney owns the word for music. But Apple, that's a word mark. But see, they also own an image, and this image right here, when you see this, you recognize the manufacturer of the product, same type of deal. Did you know that slogans can be trademarked? And this slogan right here, when you see it, you'll see the R next to it, because this is, or you can, they don't always put it there, but this is a registered trademark. There's an app for that. You know, the Allstate commercials, when you hear the term, you're in good hands, that's a trademark. Anybody recognize this? Ladies? There you go. This pattern here is a trademark. Did you know, even without the word Burberry or the Burberry logo, if someone creates a product with this pattern on it, it's counterfeit. So this is also a way that you can tell. Again, someone looks at this, looks at a scarf that you're wearing with this pattern, and they say, oh, this is a product made by this company.
So like that picture you just took that might go somewhere.
Yeah. If she puts it on a T-shirt, you know, then it might. Then I want to cut too. Also, colors. Anybody recognize this? Tiffany, of course. Everybody knows Tiffany. This little blue box is very powerful in the world of romance. This color is known as Robin's Egg Blue, or Tiffany Blue. Robin's Egg Blue, and a lot of people don't know this, but it's the color of the highest quality turquoise, polished to perfection. Tiffany actually sells turquoise, and I bought my wife a necklace. It cost like $800 for this little pendant, a turquoise pendant. I thought I was doing her the nicest thing in the whole world. She said, and she has Tiffany products too. She's like, this is too much to pay for turquoise. I'm like, all right. Probably, I should have bought her diamond. I think that was what she was getting at. But anyway, this color right here, even like hardware stores using the exact color orange as Home Depot could get in trouble for possibly using that. There are different ways to trademark colors in certain classes and certain shapes and things. Tiffany only owns this color, I believe, in a box shape and a bag shape.
Harley Davidson.
All right, well that spoils that. This is a THX sound here. It normally freaks everybody out. But sounds are also, they can be trademarks. And again, you ever go to a movie and you hear the THX sound? Now they all have it. You know, Dolby has a sound and all that other stuff. Back in the 60s, I think it was the 60s, NBC trademarked their chime sound. Now, when you hear that, even you hear it on the radio, you recognize the source of that product. And again, if it's unique enough and you can identify the source of a product, it may be able to be trademarked. The MGM Lion Roar. Harley Davidson actually tried to trademark the sound of their exhaust pipe, and the court case, it went on for about 10 years. It just wasn't something that they were able to do. They spent a lot of money to try and do it because a lot of motorcycle companies try to mimic that same sound. But the sound was potato, 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 potato. I don't know how they get that from a muffler, but anyway. So you can see different ways that people can trademark, or different things that people can trademark for almost the same purposes. Secondary marks. You see this brand right here? Well, they don't only have just the one brand or the one word mark, and the CCs would be their image mark. They have secondary marks. So you have a brand like Chanel, then they have these sub-brands. Number 5 is a trademark. The shape of the bottle, the shape of this bottle right here for perfume is a trademark. A lot of other brands trademarked the design of the bottles. Coca-Cola, the shape of a Coca-Cola bottle is trademarked. So even if it doesn't say Coke on it, if it's that same shape and carries soda. Same type of deal. And you see Chanel Chance, Coco, Allure, these are all secondary marks or sub-brands. And I was just talking to Nicole over here about Farmville. But Zynga here, they have this registered trademark, but then they have other trademarks too here. Some are registered, some are not, but these are all secondary marks. They have a primary brand and then they have sub-brands. And these would be their games, Milton Bradley, and they have Monopoly and all the other games. I believe that a word mark is the most important place to start. You know, I mean, like for example, like you look at McDonald's and Starbucks and all these companies that are moving away from the word mark. They're not moving away from the word mark because the word isn't valuable. It's because the image now transcends, you know, for a worldwide market, it transcends the word. But always start with the word. That's what, you know, and the thing is that it all begins and ends with a name, in my opinion. You always want to start there. Now, from a social media standpoint, this is just the first sentence in Wikipedia, but I like to enunciate the simplicity of this. Social media is online content created by people using highly accessible and scalable publishing technologies. Real simple definition. And I like to go into this too because you start thinking, okay, why Facebook? Well, there are 1 billion people supposedly using it. Facebook, anybody here old enough to remember Studio 54? All right. I remember the movie from the 90s, and I do remember in the 80s, this place that everybody wanted to be apparently in New York City. Well, it's the same thing. It's Facebook is what it is because everybody happens to be there. Oh, also, Hollywood made movies about each one of those places too, so I think it's kind of fun. Now, I want to go through some of these too, because you start looking at how many people are on these social networks, and this is going to freak you guys out when you see all the different, this is anything over, I think, 100 million users. And I'm going to go through all these fairly quickly, but just to show you how many social networks there are out there with 100 million users or more. We have 1 billion users on YouTube, of course, over 1 billion on Facebook. 700 million users on QQ in China. Another Chinese social network. 500 million users. 500 million users on another Chinese network. 500 million users on Twitter. Google Plus. That's not all Google employees, believe it or not. There are a lot of people on there. Tagged. Tagged is a social network that college kids use because their parents are on Facebook. You know, and there's 330 million of them. This is a sound-based social network. You ever watch commercials and you see, you'll watch a Buick commercial and say Shazam here? Well, if you click Shazam on your phone, it'll actually register into your phone and it'll pull up content based on the sound of the commercial. And you can also do the same thing with songs and things like that. It's outrageous. And another Chinese social network, 300 million users. Skype, which is considered a social network by definition, 280 million users. That shouldn't say China, but Angry Birds, you know, another place where people go on, online to play games, but here it is, 263 million users. 212 million users, Sports Phone. Anybody ever heard of this? Look at how many people are using it. LinkedIn, 200 million users. Contact in Russia, that's Russian for contact, 190 million users. SoundCloud. Pandora, 175 million. Viber, everybody heard of this one? 175 million people, and only about 2 people in the audience heard of it. 170 million users on Tumblr. Badu, again, 151 million. India, Nimbuzz, 150 million. 130 million on SoundHound. PayPal, by definition, isn't necessarily a social network, but look how many people are using it. Again, I like to show all this stuff so you can see all the people online and why your branding means something. China, again, 100 million users. Tango, 100 million. WhatsApp. Anybody know what WhatsApp is? It's the new hot chatting software that people are using, throughout all different countries, including the U.S. eBay, 100 million users. Dropbox, 100 million users. Instagram, 100 million. Line in Japan, 100 million. So you can see, look at this, more than the population of the Earth. These are just the social networks with more than 100 million users too. I mean, there are tons with 10, 20, 30 million users. But just to give you an idea of why your name, your brand, and your handle actually means something online. If you want someone to find you on any one of these other places, your name better be the same if you want to be found by chance and not have to give someone the URL for every one of these sites. Now, clearing a word mark. When you look at this and you say, okay, here's the social media landscape. You have all these brands up here, you have all these social networks down here. How are you actually going to go about the thought process, the strategy? Now, I always say that prevention, if effective, appears unnecessary. You ever hear anybody say, oh, what do you need that for? What do you need that for? It's like the 3 little pigs. Yeah, I built my house out of brick, so, in case the big bad wolf comes, you know what I mean? It's the same type of deal. You lay a foundation because there might be an earthquake, not because there is one. And it's the same thing. So I like to kind of go through this. And also, from a brand protection standpoint, Confucius once said, no matter where you go, there you are. You land on a social network, you're there. If you didn't claim the name and someone else does a year later, it's your fault. And brands do this too. This is interesting. Coke doesn't own Coke on Twitter? Too slow. They don't own Coke on Twitter, some other guy does, and they can't get it because he's not using it to imitate them or to infringe on their trademark. But they own Coca-Cola.com, great second choice. Shaquille O'Neal finally owns Shaq. Finally. He didn't own ShaquilleO'Neal.com or Shaq. I'm sorry, on Twitter. So he didn't own @Shaquille O'Neal. He didn't own @Shaq. He had to get, how celebrities have the real so-and-so? It's because their attorneys were so slow in registering their social networks, right? If their attorneys jumped on it ahead of time, I had a celebrity who's a game show host, I can't tell you which one, who announced his Twitter name, and it wasn't his Twitter name. He just thought his name was his name on Twitter. And then, of course, we're spinning our wheels trying to figure out how to do it, how to make that happen. And we did, but it was expensive. But again, Shaq finally, later, this is maybe within the last year or two, had to purchase Shaq from the person who was using it. And even the social networks, and I find this interesting because, we were talking earlier today about going to our, the first tweet up, the first Twestival.
Yes.
It was in 2008, and Twitter started gaining some traction in 2008, okay? And they had already had, I don't know, at least $10 million, I'm just guessing, $10 million in funding by then, right? A lot of money was put into this company, and they didn't register a trademark until 2009. They didn't even file it until then. Where were these attorneys? But again, so when I'm talking about this, I'm telling you that it's a universal issue, you know, protecting your brand. It's so easy to secure the brand early. It's just a matter of doing it, like a lot of things, just putting in the time. Now, I just want to show you, and again, this is just basic searching of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. Again, it's just 3 quick screens, but I want to show you here, when you go to the page, there's a lot of education on here and a lot of information on here besides the searching. It's a great place to go for education, but I want to just quickly show you the trademark section. See where it says American Invents Act? That's actually a great section to read because Barack Obama's done some amazing things. No matter your politics, the last 3 presidents have been amazing in the intellectual property world. But he passed the American Invents Act, and there are a lot of very interesting tools now available to small businesses. But you want to go right here where it says trademarks. It says patents, trademarks, right there, boom. You want to click on that, it'll take you to a screen that looks like this. And it's called TESS. It's just a trademark electronic search system. But you want to click on this one, not Trademark Basics or any of this other stuff, but TESS, that's the search. So once you click TESS, it's going to take you to this screen here. And there are basically 3 ways to search. You can do, now you guys are familiar with Boolean searching where it has this word and this word, or this word or this word. Well, that's where you can use the structured search right here. Like you can say, you want to see if this word is taken in the 042 class for entertainment, you know, things like that. You can, but the easiest way to tell if a name is being used at all or has been trademarked at all, you can just go to the bottom one here where it says freeform search, and you can just go to this page here and just type in, like for example, the word IP Cybercrime. And like I said, I haven't trademarked my company name because I chose a descriptive word, but I do have a trademark, and you can actually, because this is the freeform search, it'll find anything in any field, basically. So you can see here, I own a trademark, LitPack. LitPack is actually the end product. It's the report that I send to the client. It's kind of short for litigation packet. It's a PDF with all my supporting documents in there, but. This is a trademark that I own, and see when you search for IP Cybercrime, it kicks up the owner as well. So again, when you're running your searches and you're looking to see if something's taken, it's nice to check in just to see if you're going to run into any trouble, you know, because there could be a company that filed it 20 years ago and isn't using it anymore. You better know it because, you know, you're going to run into it. In case you make $20 million, you're going to be an easy target for a lawsuit, you know. So again, these are things that you want to know ahead of time. You may not be able to or be inclined to do anything about it right now, but it's nice to see what the landscape looks like with an easy internet search like this. You can do, this is where the lawyers go. This isn't rocket science, but it's the same place the lawyers search. I mean, they have databases that search the same place, but it's the same source. Everybody hear of a website called Known? This is one of the best sites in the whole world. You can register. Okay, and this is where I recommend, I don't get money from these guys. I know the owners because I was so impressed with the product that I got to know them. And now we're friends. They're a small startup out of New Jersey, which is where I grew up. But what you can do here is you can sign up for a professional account and you can have them reserve your name on 575 social networks for like $1,000. Or you can go through their social network, through their website, and do it manually. So there is a manual way to do it. I'm sorry. Basically, for example, if you want to search, for your handle, the handle or the name that you want to use, like IP Cybercrime or Holmes PI, right? You can enter the name right here and click check it, and it will check in real time. They have a software on this website that'll search every single one of the sites, and they keep growing this amount of pages. But right here, it'll actually search all 575 social networks and tell you if your name's taken or not. So it's real neat, because if you see it, you're like, wow, my name's not taken on more than half of these, you know? It's amazing, it's an amazing tool. And like I said, there's an upsell, but there's a free version of it too. But again, if you're starting a business, you may say, well, that's not a bad investment to have them, you know, $1,000 or whatever they cost, whatever it costs, 600 or something. But then they register it on all those social networks and save them for you.
It's just .com, no.com.
Yep, noam.com, exactly. And yeah, they have an enterprise dashboard, lawyers use this and everything, but it's something that any one of us, small business people, can actually jump on and use. See, there's a sign in up here. See, this is my account. And see, it shows right here. See, I have only, because I've done it manually, I've only claimed 9% of the 575. And that's like 50 of them that I've claimed. I still have 500 more if I really wanted to go through manually and do it. But I claim mine probably on the top 50 on their site. But you can see here, you know, a lot of times you're fiddling around on the computer just doing work stuff. Well, you can go on Noam and just manually sign yourself up on all the social networks. You know, and go through blocks, which is what I did to get these first 50. But this is a manual search, and the account's free, you know, to do it manually. So again, I really like this. I really like this service. And I always like to use this analogy. You know the old phrase that the internet is the information superhighway? Well, if that's true, then social media are the sidewalks, the beaches, and the shopping malls. And I want to leave you with this. This is the #1 most valuable brand in the entire world. And the guy in charge of branding at the most valuable brand in the whole world said this: people buy brands, not products. And I always want to, you know, because it really is true. It's your brand. The products change, but your brand lasts centuries. Anyway, that's my talk.